Greetings everyone, I'm Laugu. Today we shall delve into the topic of World War I. This significant conflict occurred a century ago, spanning from July 1914 to November 1918, enduring for 4 years, 3 months and 2 weeks. It was humanity's inaugural global large-scale war. Although the primary battlefield was situated in Europe, numerous countries across the globe participated. Based on incomplete statistics, nearly 70 million individuals worldwide were involved in this war. The death toll reached 18 million, with half of the casualties being soldiers and the other half ordinary civilians. Why did people around the world suddenly start fighting? Perhaps this year we will focus on the causes of World War I. In fact, before World War I occurred, wars between European countries never really stopped. After many years of warfare, these small countries fought among themselves and eventually formed several larger countries, namely the United Kingdom, France, Italy, the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and the Russian Empire. The countries I just mentioned are the ones from 100 years ago. The countries were not exactly the same, and most of them had conflicts. If they shared a border, there were usually territorial disputes, and even without borders, the relationships weren't great. The biggest conflicts were among the UK, France, and Germany. The reason for their significant conflicts was that all three had strong navies and were competing for colonies. While acquiring colonies, they often clashed with each other, leading to frequent disputes, especially over Africa. Before World War I, during the Second Industrial Revolution, the UK, France, and Germany had become industrial powers. When they went to Africa, they saw it was full of indigenous people. These areas had many mineral resources, so everyone rushed to seize them, dividing Africa. During this division, Britain said, "I'll divide vertically," France said, "I'll divide horizontally," and Germany said, "I'll divide diagonally." They clashed, and once they clashed, they started fighting. The conflict among these three wasn't just because they were neighbors, but mainly due to interests. If Germany and France had a bad relationship, Germany feared France might attack. To the east was the Russian Empire, always watching closely and very powerful. Germany feared Russia, and France might join forces to attack them. So he first told Russia, let's not go to war, and by agreeing to this, he could focus on watching France. If France attacked, he could handle it. Then the Austro-Hungarian Empire below him proposed an alliance, forming the Triple Alliance of Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Russian Empire. After these three countries formed an alliance, Germany could focus on developing its industry. At that time, it was right during the Second Industrial Revolution, which was characterized by energy sources like electricity and oil, and technologies like radio technology and internal combustion engines. Products like cars, airplanes, refrigerators, and telephones emerged then. With no war, Germany focused on development and quickly grew powerful. The first cars appeared in Germany in the late 19th century. While Germany was growing, what was Russia up to? Germany was allied with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which included the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, now Turkey's predecessor, was much larger than modern Turkey. At that time, it faced internal strife due to its diverse ethnic groups, each seeking autonomy, leading to disorder. The Russian Empire exploited this chaos, claiming to support one of these groups, and caused a division. Moreover, Russia grabbed a piece of land during the turmoil, leading to the Northern Ottoman Empire fracturing into smaller countries. For example, Serbia, Romania, and Bulgaria, these were all brought about with the support of the Russian Empire. Russia's approach of supporting the division of other countries suddenly made Germany a bit nervous, realizing that Russia hadn't been idle. It seemed like Russia still wanted to expand in this direction. In fact, not only Germany but all the surrounding countries were nervous, fearing that Russia might continue its advances. So in 1878, a meeting was held in Berlin, Germany, with the purpose of limiting Russia's westward expansion. At this meeting, the Russian Empire and all other European countries reached a consensus that Russia would no longer expand westward, but Russia was internally displeased. Furious, particularly at Germany, he expressed, "We're allies, I'm not launching an attack on you, permitting you to thrive. So what relevance does my expansion have with you? Why are you opposing my expansion? You're not being faithful, I'm expanding in other regions, not within your territory. So why are you so anxious?" Indeed, Germany noticed that the Russian Empire was upset and promptly established a military alliance with the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The initial sentiment of that alliance was that if France launched an attack on me, you shouldn't assist France in attacking me. It is like this, just remain neutral. However, now with this alliance, if anyone attacks me, we shall confront them together. Mainly referring to Russia, for example. If Russia comes to attack, the two of us will deal with them. Later, Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire were a bit uneasy because Russia was too large, so they brought Italy into the alliance. This formed the Triple Alliance of Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Italy, effectively replacing Russia with Italy. Why was Italy willing to join this German alliance? It was because Italy didn't have a good relationship with France, so the enemy of my enemy is my friend, that's the feeling. At this point in time, around the 1880s, the three strongest industrial nations in Europe were the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. These countries aimed to sell the vast amount of industrial products produced by their factories to others. They expanded their colonies overseas because their factories needed raw materials. They took materials from the colonies to make products and then sold them back to the colonies. Back then, Britain's big colonies were India, Australia, and South Africa. Germany took parts of Africa and seized Qingdao. Like in recent years, France also occupied several parts of Africa and Vietnam, which were all their colonies. During this process of overseas expansion, France noticed that Germany was growing at an increasingly rapid pace, with its industry being quite advanced. They felt that Germany was becoming a greater threat, especially since they were historical rivals. As a result, France secretly allied with the Russian Empire, agreeing that if Germany continued its expansion and didn't behave, they would jointly attack it. Simultaneously, France also clandestinely allied itself with Italy. France and Italy formed a pact, stating that if France were to confront Germany, Italy should refrain from assisting Germany. Italy consented, which is rather peculiar given that Italy was allied with both Germany and France. The rationale behind Italy's secret agreement with France is that Italy shares a border with the Austro-Hungarian Empire on the opposite side, and they have ongoing territorial disputes with them. Now, when the conflict with France is minor, and the conflict with the Austro-Hungarian Empire is major, they side with France. When issues with the Austro-Hungarian Empire are minor, and issues with France are major, they ally with the Austro-Hungarian Empire. As we often say, circumstances change over time. There are no permanent friends, nor permanent enemies. It's not a matter of split personality. Germany's swift advancement made another nation quite uneasy, and that nation happens to be Britain. Why is Britain displeased with Germany? It's due to Germany's collaboration with the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Ottoman Empire to construct a railway extending to the Middle East. The southern end of the Ottoman Empire is the Arabian region, which has oil. Germany built a railway through all its allies to this oil-producing area, continuously transporting oil. The British also saw the potential of this oil. If Britain wanted to obtain this oil resource, it would inevitably come into conflict with Germany. So these conflicts are essentially either over territory or resources, arising from competition. It's not about being right or wrong, it's all for one's own development. If you take more oil and develop faster, I feel very scared. I want to grab some oil and other resources to develop faster than you. Otherwise, I always feel like you're going to attack. It's not entirely paranoia. It's because those small European countries could start fighting at any time, and they've been doing so for hundreds of years. Seeing this makes me very fearful every day. During Germany's rapid development, two major powers formed in Europe. One power was an alliance between the United Kingdom, France, and the Russian Empire, while the other was an alliance between Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Italy. We haven't mentioned the Ottoman Empire yet, and the reason is that it was constantly experiencing internal turmoil. After such turmoil, the Austro-Hungarian Empire took advantage of the situation and seized a piece of land from the Ottoman Empire, which was the northernmost part. The land next to Serbia was occupied, and this actually led to the outbreak of World War I. Why was this land so important? Because it was inhabited by Serbians, and the newly independent state of Serbia had always had its eyes on this land. They wanted to take it over, but unexpectedly it was occupied by the Austro-Hungarian Empire from the north. Serbia was particularly dissatisfied because this land originally belonged to the Serbs. The Ottomans messed things up for them, and when they intended to take it, a powerful army came and occupied it. This occupied territory was called Bosnia, and the real trigger for World War I happened in this area. On June 28, 1914, a young Serb named Gavrilo Princip shot and killed the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne and his wife in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. Then the Austro-Hungarian Empire became furious and demanded that Serbia hand over the perpetrator or at least punish them. And Serbia? It ignored this demand.
It's not excessive. Just kill the yellow bug without calling it out.
Yes, actually no. It's too much, but he refused. Serbia is not a big country, just this little bit. Why is he so tough? Because he has the Russian Empire behind him, he has a big brother protecting him, so he's not afraid. And the Austro-Hungarian Empire also knows that the Russian Empire is the strong support behind him. However, behind the Austro-Hungarian Empire was the militarily powerful Germany, so neither side was willing to make concessions. Ultimately, on July 28th, 1 month after the assassination incident, the Austro-Hungarian Empire declared war on Serbia, thus marking the beginning of World War I, which was ignited by a murder incident. However, the assassination of this person was quite special. This event is historically known as the Sarajevo Assassination. Once the war began, the Russian Empire immediately sent troops to assist Serbia because their ally was attacked. Thus, they got involved in this war. Germany, on its part, immediately declared war on the Russian Empire. To confront Russia, Germany first needed to deal with France, which was behind them. So, Germany essentially planned to engage both the Russian Empire and France simultaneously, intending to resolve the situation with France first before turning to Russia. However, the area where Germany and France border each other had very strong French defenses, so Germany couldn't attack directly. Instead, they decided to go around and attack from a weaker spot. The weaker area was the border between France and Belgium, so Germany first occupied Belgium and then attacked France from there. Belgium was a neutral country at the time, and when this neutral country was attacked, Britain couldn't stand by. Britain stepped in to help France and Belgium fight back, and more countries got involved with Germany. Even neutral countries were being attacked. Germany asked, "Can I pass through to attack France?" Belgium replied, "No, you can't." Germany then said, "I must handle you first." Belgium was unlucky. At that time, France couldn't really stand up to Germany, and Germany quickly moved toward Paris. The French king and others fled, and if Britain hadn't come to help later, Paris would have been captured. As a result, all the countries in Europe, big and small, like a chain reaction, started to engage in conflict, each supporting one side or the other. That side not only fought in Europe, but also battled in the colonies against Germany.
As for France, Italy didn't say they wanted to get involved.
During this process, Italy consistently did not release any troops or take action, no matter how those countries fought. It seems he adhered to the agreement with France, which stated that if France and Germany were to fight, Italy should not assist Germany. Indeed, he did not help Germany, which was completely unexpected for Germany. On the opposite side, Russia was unable to withstand Germany's aggressive offensive, although it did manage to seize a portion of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Battles transpired on land, at sea, and in the air. The British Navy was formidable, yet Germany's submarines were remarkably strong as well. Thus, a balance of power was established at sea between Britain and Germany. Moreover, World War I saw the first use of air combat. Previously, there were no airplanes, but they were invented shortly before the war. Therefore, World War I was the first time airplanes were used in combat. Germany's air force was very powerful, not only because of their advanced aircraft, but also due to the excellent airships designed by the German designer Zeppelin. The Zeppelin airship, which was in existence prior to the war, was mainly utilized for air transportation. Following the onset of the war, Germany employed it for reconnaissance missions and bombing operations, proving to be exceedingly formidable. This airship carried out 50 bombing raids on London. During that period, the situation was such that any nation taking a step back encountered the risk of losing their kingdom. Consequently, all these nations focused their national power on the war effort. No one was working in the fields or farming. Everyone went to the factories to produce bullets and shells. So what did they eat? They depended on the provisions from these years and additionally transported food back from the colonies, which were not engaged in the war. You fought too, but it wasn't very intense. Germany's overseas colonies were swiftly taken by the British and French, lasting 3 months. The Ottoman Empire, initially neutral, suddenly joined the war as an ally of Germany and Austria-Hungary. The Ottoman Empire held a grudge against Russia, so he would definitely help Germany by involving the Ottoman Empire in the war. Another reason is because of Britain. As I mentioned earlier, Britain had always been interested in the oil in the Middle Eastern regions at the southern end of the Ottoman Empire. So after the war began, Britain sent troops to the south to try to take over this area, which led to a conflict with the Ottoman Empire. As a result, the Ottoman Empire was forced to join the war, and they fought for more than half a year without a decisive outcome. However, during this period, some very significant events occurred. A large neutral country was drawn into the war, which was the United States. The United States was still neutral at the time of the European War, and whatever happened in Europe had nothing to do with it. How did it get dragged into this war? Well, on May 7th, 1915, the British Royal Mail ship Lusitania was sunk by a German submarine near the waters of Ireland. This ship was once the largest passenger ship in the world, but later, a ship 1.5 times larger broke its record. It was the Titanic, but the Titanic sank in 1912, which was earlier. Now, when the Lusitania was sunk by the Germans in 1915, there were nearly 2,000 people on board and nearly 1,200 died. Among those 1,200 who died, 198 were American passengers. This ship was traveling from the United States to the United Kingdom, and at that time, Britain was at war and still had people. Yes, it's actually a form of covert supply. Well, Germany had warned the United States a long time ago, saying that your ships shouldn't come this way. Whether it's your American ships or British ships, if my submarines find them, I will definitely attack them. So why did Britain dare to bring this ship over from the United States? It was because the Lusitania was very fast, and it was said that submarines couldn't catch up with it. And in fact, they really couldn't. So why was this ship sunk by a submarine? It was because there was fog that day and the ship's speed slowed down. As it slowed down, it was discovered by a submarine, which fired a torpedo and sank it. Due to the death of 198 American passengers, the US government lodged a strong protest against Germany. At this time, international opinion also began to condemn Germany because this attack had killed many civilians. From this time, the US started secretly organizing its military, preparing to face Germany. Seeing Germany's situation worsening, Italy, initially neutral, suddenly dropped its neutral stance and attacked the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Italy allied with France due to conflicts with the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Now public opinion shifted to Britain and France's side, criticizing Germany, and Italy quickly declared it was joining Britain and France against the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I told him Britain, seeking oil resources, was battling the Ottoman Empire in the south. The Ottoman military was strong in the Middle East, and Britain couldn't beat them. So Britain devised a clever plan. They decided to team up with France to fight the Ottomans. To ally with France, they had to offer some benefits. Thus, Britain and France made a secret deal. They said if we defeat the Ottomans, how we would divide it up should be decided first. Even though we haven't fought yet, we should divide it up in advance. After dividing it, we would proceed to attack and subsequently split it according to the agreement. With well-defined benefits, France consented to dispatch troops. Subsequently, Britain formulated another strategy. The Ottoman Empire was formidable but had a significant issue: strong externally yet weak internally. The nation frequently encountered uprisings due to the presence of numerous ethnic groups. Its final disintegration occurred because ethnic groups pursued independence, such as Serbia and Bulgaria. So the British seized upon this point. The Ottoman Empire's land in the Middle East was actually inhabited by Arabs. So the British told the Arabs, if you help us overthrow the Ottoman Empire, this land will be yours. Alright, you will be independent. The Arabs thought that was great, so they helped the British with a revolt at home. With the Arab revolt, the Ottoman Empire, which initially had the upper hand, suddenly found itself disadvantaged. By then, the war had been ongoing for over 2 years. Everyone should have been entering a phase of fatigue, having fought for so long, with food nearly depleted and ammo running low. Logically, the war should have been winding down, but it was the opposite. The fighting grew more intense, partly because more countries joined in, complicating the situation, and also due to tech advancements. During World War I, technology continuously advanced, and various new types of deadly weapons were invented, such as tanks, steel warships, and machine guns. Before World War I, there were guns, but you had to reload after each shot, and formations were set up with not very long range. As the war progressed, machine guns began to appear, right? They could mow down people in swathes. The efficiency of killing is getting higher and higher, so the war is becoming more and more brutal. At this time, Germany discovered a problem, which is that they had no supplies because they were surrounded by Britain, France, and Russia, and their colonies outside had been taken over, leaving them with no supplies. Nevertheless, Britain was consistently being resupplied, with the United States persistently sending them provisions, armaments, or financial support. Consequently, Germany contemplated, I need to secure an ally on the periphery to assist in severing this route, or to launch an attack on Britain and France from the outside. They considered Mexico. Why did they think of Mexico? It was because Mexico and the United States had ongoing territorial disputes. So, in January 1917, Germany sent a telegram to Mexico, known as the Zimmermann Telegram. The telegram proposed an alliance, stating that Germany had powerful submarines in the Atlantic capable of cutting off British supplies, forcing Britain to seek peace within a few months, provided that the United States did not enter the war. However, if the United States did join the war, we can provide Mexico with substantial funds to help you attack the United States and reclaim lost territories. In fact, the southern U.S. states of New Mexico, Texas, and Arizona were originally Mexican land, so you could take these areas back, and we can collaborate from within and outside. However, the content of this telegram was intercepted by the British, who then informed the United States about it. The US was already upset because you had sunk my ships and killed my people, and now you want to ally with Mexico to attack me. So, the US began preparing its military for potential involvement in the war. At that time, part of the military preparations were sent to the Mexican border, and another part was sent to Britain. When the troops were deployed near Mexico, Mexico realized, wow. Could it be that the United States found out about this? They immediately sent a telegram back to reject Germany's invitation. However, just a month later, in February 1917, the Russian Empire, due to years of warfare and severe economic damage, left the people in great suffering. So it erupted. The February Revolution was a popular uprising where people said, let's stop fighting. If we continue, we'll have no food. This led to the Russian emperor being forced to abdicate, and a provisional government was set up. One main reason Russia couldn't hold on was the country's size and its borders with many enemy nations. On one side, there were England, France, and Italy, which could pressure Germany, but on the other side, Russia had to rely entirely on itself. The front was vast. When Russia fought Germany, the Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires would strike too. While battling the Ottomans, Germany would attack, putting Russia in a tough spot. Even after the February Revolution ousted the emperor, the provisional government insisted on continuing the war. Due to the lack of improvement in people's livelihoods just 9 months later, the October Revolution occurred. The October Revolution established the predecessor of the Soviet Union, called the Soviet Russian government. However, this Soviet Russian government did not receive support from the former Russian elites or the vast regions, so essentially, it overthrew the government. But the surrounding common people were unaware of this. Why did the government change again? Because people didn't support it. As a result, civil war broke out across Russia. Russia faced internal turmoil, pulling out from World War I early due to its own conflicts. This was advantageous for Germany since Russia had exited. However, the British, aided by Greeks and Serbs, pushed back the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Austro-Hungarian Empire faced severe internal divisions, composed of various nationalities, all demanding independence, causing the country to falter, and the emperor's words lost influence. Each went their own way, so in November 1918, the Austro-Hungarian Empire also proposed an armistice to the Anglo-French alliance. Seeing the Austro-Hungarian Empire withdraw, the German Navy refused to fight and demanded peace. Since our allies were done for, why should we continue fighting? They didn't want to fight anymore, and eventually the German emperor was forced to abdicate. On November 11, 1918, Germany sought peace with the Anglo-French alliance, marking the end of World War I. After the end, the victorious countries gathered in Paris for the Paris Peace Conference to decide how to handle the defeated nations. The victors were the United Kingdom, France, the United States, Italy, and Japan. Although Japan didn't fight much, it was still seen as a victor. The defeated were Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. The Paris Peace Conference extended over a duration of half a year. It was precisely 5 years subsequent to the commencement of World War I, which initiated on June 28, 1914. On June 28, 1919, the defeated countries signed the Treaty of Versailles. This treaty was essentially an agreement where the victors ruthlessly divided the defeated nations. Moreover, not every victorious country got a share. Smaller countries were sidelined, and only the larger nations received a portion. The biggest winners were the United Kingdom, France, and the United States. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept full responsibility for World War I, meaning all the losses from the war were to be borne by Germany. It required Germany to cede territory. Essentially, Germany ceded 20% of its territory under this treaty, and many of its mineral-rich areas were controlled by the UK, France, and the US, who claimed that all the minerals extracted from then on would belong to them. As for your war reparations, the reparations amounted to 132 billion. In German marks, this was roughly equivalent to $2 trillion today, which was an astronomical amount at the time. Germany took a total of 92 years to fully repay this amount, with the final payment made in October 2010. The last payment was compensation to France, amounting to over 60 million euros, a true compensation. Germany's overseas territories were allocated among various other nations. Additionally, Germany's armed forces encountered intricate and stringent restrictions, such as the cap on the total number of troops and a reduced number of officers above a specified rank. Besides Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was completely dissolved, becoming what are now Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Croatia, and other countries. The Ottoman Empire also dissolved afterward, forming what are now Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and other countries. The Arab countries indeed gained independence as well. The British didn't promise independence, but they did gain it. One key reason World War I ended was internal turmoil in many countries, making continued fighting impossible. Another crucial reason was the Spanish flu outbreak in the war's later stages. The flu's death toll far surpassed war casualties. World War I took 18 million lives, while the Spanish flu might have killed up to 100 million. For years after World War I, most European countries struggled to recover from the war's devastation and the pandemic. Just the United States, since it didn't heavily engage in the fighting and the war wasn't on its land. Among the victors, it reaped significant benefits and developed quickly. In World War I, Germany suffered the most, with territorial losses and massive reparations deeply humiliating the Germans. This trend laid the groundwork for World War II. Though Germany suffered immensely, every nation involved in the war endured hardship. In World War I, Britain lost 1 million, France 1.7 million, Italy 124 million, and Russia 3.3 million. Even the US, with minimal involvement, lost 120,000. The victors lost 10 million in total, while the defeated nations saw Germany losing 2.5 million, the Ottoman Empire 3 million, and Austria-Hungary over 1.5 million. Together, the defeated countries lost nearly 8 million.
I caused fewer deaths.
Fewer victorious countries have more nations despite the war. Neither the victorious countries nor the defeated ones gained any benefits. It's the common people who gained nothing at all. Moreover, the end of a war doesn't make people suddenly become harmonious and happy. It only leaves behind more seeds of hatred. These hatreds, in turn, will eventually lead to more wars. In fact, during World War I, an event occurred that can prove no one truly wants war. On December 7, 1914, when Germany and Britain were fighting most fiercely, both sides had dug trenches and were firing at each other. It was particularly cold because it was December, and many people froze to death in the trenches, yet no one was willing to give an inch. At this time, the Pope called out to Germany and Britain, suggesting that since Christmas was approaching, perhaps they could have a truce to celebrate the holiday. Nevertheless, both the British and German forces declined the Pope's suggestion, yet a profoundly moving incident unfolded on the battlefield on December 25th, which was Christmas Day. A German soldier gradually made his way toward the British trench and called out, "Merry Christmas." Initially, the British forces suspected that the opposing side had some ulterior motive, but after verifying that he was indeed harmless, a British soldier emerged from the trench, extended his hand to the German soldier, and offered him Peggy's chocolate as a friendly gesture. He also said, "Merry Christmas," and the German soldier returned Peggy's cigarettes to the British soldier as a Christmas gift. Later, more and more British and German soldiers climbed out of the trenches, shook hands, and talked to each other, exchanging food and drinks. In the end, the German and British soldiers even played a soccer match. That soccer match ended with a 3-2 victory for the Germans. It turns out that there was no conflict between them, and if there were no war, they might have been. Turns out there was no conflict between them. If there hadn't been a war, they might have been good friends. But this friendship only lasted a short while. Soldiers on both sides were forced back to the trenches. They had to accept that they had killed their friends. And this war, it lasted for 4 whole years. This is known as World War I.
In what manner are you perceiving the existing limitations and restrictions that are currently in place? And to a comprehensive designation specifically tailored for you? We shall simply proceed downward, continue onward, for what other alternatives do we genuinely possess? Just go ahead with it. And we shall sing hallelujah. What does that signify to you right now, at this very moment in time?